Hi, this is Lady C. Welcome to another episode of The Critical Thought. In the upcoming episode, we'll be talking to a young lady who's not a stranger to our program. In fact, she's been here several times before, and in previous episodes, she's discussed who's controlling your mind, the tools of undue influence, Steve Hassan's bite model, and Robert J. Lifton's 8 criteria of thought reform. In the upcoming episode, she's going to be talking about what an individual needs to do when recovering from an abusive group or an abuser.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
So I'd like to welcome Spike Robinson. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks, Lady C. It's always a pleasure to be here.
So Spike, let's start off talking about the first thing that an individual can do when recovering from an abusive group or an abuser.
On the first thing that you need to recover from an abusive group or an abuser is safety and distance from the abuser or from the group. This is the most important thing, even if it means going to the police. And sometimes you might need to go to the police of a different town. If that's possible, do what you can to get yourself out safe. If there are children involved, get them out too. But the first thing you know, I know it's not as easy as it sounds, is to get away.
What type of a coercive group do you think would require going to the police?
There perhaps a group where there has been child abuse, say like the Children of God, who actually practice child abuse as part of their beliefs, or say an abusive relationship. If you've been hurt physically, you might be killed. You could die. It's better to go to the police sooner than later. And also there are many, many small groups that a lot of unethical, illegal things, gangs particularly, are very much in the cult and abusive group dynamic. So going to the police, even if it seems like the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, that's very good that you said that, because a lot of people don't want to think that they're in a group like that.
And also, women helping battered women. Here's a little secret. They don't just help women. If you call up and you say, I'm a battered man, they might not be able to take you at their shelter, but somebody working there will be able to find somebody who can help you. Even if it's in another organization, the people working there really honestly care.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the second one, access to transportation and social services. If you can find somewhere on a bus line, if you can find some way to get to Planned Parenthood, to get to Women Helping Battered Women, to get to your YMCA, to get to any organization that gives help, your United Way. There are a lot of programs that still deliver good social services, not just in the United States, but also in Canada and elsewhere. And also, I know that, at least in this town that I'm in, there is at least one cab company that will barter. If you do dispatch work for them, they will take you anywhere you want to go if you work for them as a dispatcher. But so you can find ways around it. Reach out to people, ask, put up notes in bulletin boards. I need X. Ask your neighbor. Unlike what they've told you in the cult, that these worldly folks are out to get you, really honestly, the majority of the humankind, our first impulse is to help.
I personally feel that when you are in a coercive group and you're in one of those groups that they say you have to report anything that happens to them, then you don't have a tendency to know how to access these social services.
This is exactly why. Actually, I'm working right now with a friend of mine on a handbook for people who have gotten out of the very high control groups, like, say, those folks that are living out in armed camps in Montana to the child brides of Colorado and Utah, who suddenly find themselves out in the world with no idea. So that's a lot of this list is directed to folks just like that. And also, here's another thing that they will not know, because it's just not even going to occur to you until after you're out of the group. And that is number 3, proper amounts and types of sleep, food, and exercise. Now, sleep, no matter what any of your abusive leaders say, we need a good 7 to 8 hours sleep depending on what kind of individual we are. Me, I could do a good 9 or 10, but that's just me. But seriously, you need a good night of uninterrupted, comfortable sleep each night, every night, for optimum health. For food, a lot of these high control groups feed you on high carb, low protein diets, which just keep up the immediate energy, but don't keep the actual mechanisms of the body in any kind of good maintenance. It's important, no matter what diet you have, and it's even possible on a vegan diet, to have adequate protein and an adequately balanced diet. And
That's true.
And then there's also exercise, and it doesn't have to be horrible. One of the best exercises there is get out and walk.
Well, then, you know something, when you say that, some people whose religion requires them to walk, they may say, well, we're giving you all the exercise you can get right now, going door to door on field service.
You know what, though? That's not the good type of walking, because what kind of walking is that? That's walk a few doors, stop. Walk a few doors, stop, and start walking actually has been proven to be less good for the body than continual cardio walking, where you're actually walking at a brisk pace and you're not stopping for a while. But gentle, continual, and also good, the right type of exercise. Actually going door to door and ringing the bell is not good exercise.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because when I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, they always discouraged us from exercising at gyms, and they would talk about people, and they would use that scripture. It said that bodily training is beneficial for a little, but godly devotion is beneficial for all things. So they would always try to find a way that they could discourage people from doing exercise.
Oh, that's in any abusive group or relationship. You're going to find that that person or group, they're all the answers. I've had people tell me who were in groups that but you really shouldn't believe those doctors because science is a lie. It's like, you realize you're typing that in on a cell phone. Going without saying. But in any case, the exercise, very, very important, but also get an exercise buddy who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. That leads, though, into number 4. Now, this is from something very, very sad, is that, like, when I got out of my own abusive group way back when, the first thing I needed was a medical checkup, a dental checkup, and an optical checkup. I had been told that I didn't have to use my glasses, that the legal blindness in my left eye was just my imagination because of my attachment to karma. And so by the time I got back to an eye doctor, my entire prescription had changed. Also, in some groups, there's sexual abuse. So you want to go to and get a good STD screening. Then a lot of people are told not to get their teeth done and also a good mental checkup. Now, that's going to be a sticky situation for groups that have been told how evil psychiatrists or psychotherapists are, but if they can even go to a social worker or somebody who just can help them clean out the rafters a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's going to have to be somebody who knows what you've been through, and there are questions that you can ask your therapist to say, are you a good therapist for me? This is what I've been through. I don't want to work on my childhood. I want to work on this trauma I've been through, and they should be able to respect that. So don't just go to the first person and say that that guy's going to work or gal. Look until you find somebody with whom you can work.
Mm-hmm. I think these are excellent because I've heard so many stories, not just with the Jehovah's Witnesses, but I've heard, like you said, the little superstitions that they have. I remember people saying that even in the witnesses, this one sister that went to JT's congregation when he was growing up, and she said because the end of the world was so near, she didn't need to wear glasses because she would be going to the new system soon. And so some witnesses, and I do know some personal friends of mine that wouldn't have surgery. They were afraid to have surgery.
I let a case of bronchitis get to walking pneumonia before I went to the doctor because it was just an imaginary condition. This is what happens when you're believing somebody who says they speak for the universe or God or the great spaghetti monster. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. I have dear, dear, dear friends who will still tell me that the reason any given accident happened was because you weren't focusing on good thoughts. We know. So it's important and imperative after getting out of a group where you've been exposed to crazy thinking, if you to excuse the clinical phrase, that you get a complete workup, mental, medical, dental, and optical.
That's very good information.
Okay, now number 5 is bank account and credit. This sounds a little bit scary, but sometimes people leave. If you leave Scientology, you're leaving with almost the clothes on your back, and I think they give you $500. I don't want to know the exact amount, but it's like, here's a pittance for your work. Go on out the door. Some people leave with less than that. An abused wife might leave with 3 screaming kids and literally nothing but what she can stuff in a diaper bag.
Wait a minute. They give you money when you leave Scientology?
If you leave the Sea Org. Sea Org is that Navy-esque unit where they sign the billion-year contract and wear the spiffy little uniforms.
Okay.
That's not the public. That's just the people who have signed the billion-year contract and are the de facto column clergy. But they're also given, get this, a quote-unquote freeloader bill for up to a couple $100,000 based on how many free courses they've taken while they were on staff, including courses that they needed to take for their jobs.
When you say looking at their bank account, are you also referring to the fact that they need to start looking at how they need to start adding money to it when they leave? Because their religion may have told them not to save any money?
You might not have even had any money. You might need to open a bank account. And here's the thing that because sometimes you might be leaving with pennies. Go to your local credit union and ask to speak to the account manager. Now, it might seem a little bit odd, but go in and say, hey, look, I'm starting over, but I need some help and I want to start, and this is what I've got, and this is where I'm going, and this is what I'm doing. We're going to get more into that later down the list. But seriously, it sounds embarrassing as hell. I actually had to do that. I actually had to go into a credit union and go, look, this is what I got as money, and it's crap, and there's going to be more because I've now got a job, and that's the other thing is you'd be surprised, you can get temp work temp to hire. That's a part of bank account and credit, because unfortunately, in this society, you need a credit card for everything these days. You do.
Not only that, but when you work for like the federal government in the United States, you cannot work for them unless you have a bank account, because they only pay through direct deposit.
Yeah, a lot of places are like that this day. So you're going to need that, and that's a hard thing. But there are ways. I know the state of Vermont operates an excellent job help system. In fact, this is what some of our taxes are actually paying for. As much as we whine and moan about our taxes, these are the things that we're actually paying for. Every single state in the United States, if you're listening from the United States or if you're listening from Canada, I believe it works very similarly in the provinces, has a place that you can go, sponsored by the state, paid for by the state, where you can get job counseling, look up job listings, and find some way of getting yourself employed and getting some good money in to help you.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't understand that they do have skills to get these jobs, but they just need to speak to like employment counselor.
Exactly, because a lot of the skills that you have, even the ones that you've developed in the abusive group, actually very, very good. Like I've heard a lot of ExJWs tell me that they really learned how to talk to people and put a speech together from Jehovah's Witnesses. I've had ex-Scientologists tell me that they learned how to do drywall and wire. I've met some amazing ex-Scientologists who can do some amazing work that they learned to do in Scientology. I learned my street smarts in my cult. And you know, that leads right into point number 6, a support system, professional and peer. That is, today, my life's pretty darn good. I've got the dream job. I've got the world's best husband. I live in a nice little place, and I'm, more or less very happy. But every once in a while, I still have a dark hour or two. But now I know where to go. I know that I have a doctor who will check and see if my health is up to sketch. I have a therapist who, although I don't talk to every week, I know is just an email away if something gets tough. I have a very understanding peer group of good friends who have, quote unquote, been there. I have a bank manager who actually understands where I've been because, funny enough, she was there herself once upon a time. And a whole bunch of other people who are in either the team to take care of me and my health, or somebody who has been there and is going to be someone that I can go to in times of need. That's what you need, is a good support system. Now, the thing is, this almost could be the same point as point number 7, but point number 7 was so important, I needed to make it its own separate point. And that is number 7, friends and family who understand. Now, I don't mean just the friends and family who go, "Why were you in a cult? How did you get so stupid? Why did you do that?" No, what I mean is friends and family who actually understand. And sometimes you're going to have to tell them, look, this is helpful, this isn't. It is helpful when you say this. It is not helpful when you say that. You're going to have to communicate your needs at first. You're actually going to have to educate some of your friends and family. But if they love you, they will understand and they will listen. And also, it's good to have friends who, like I said before, have been there. That's a lot of the time. So when you say I was in a cult, people always think I couldn't get in a cult. I'm better than that. Nobody believes that it can happen to them. But when they find somebody in their life who actually was, they've got to really be quick to say, oh, well, that happened to you because ABC couldn't possibly happen to them. So they have to make sure that they and everybody else know it couldn't happen to them, and here's why.
Here's my take on that. I'm talking about family members that actually thought it was the truth as Jehovah's Witnesses. They never got baptized and did anything. They saw me and JT in the congregation. He's an elder and we're doing well in the congregation. So when we would come around the family, everybody looked at us and thought, well, good example of, serving Jehovah and everything. So you had those cousins that were not Jehovah's Witnesses.
That were bad association.
Then when we told them that we stopped going to the meetings and why, then they said, well, I knew something was wrong with that religion, and they start talking about, see, we didn't get baptized. See, we didn't do all that. In other words, they're trying to say we were smarter than you, when really that's not what happened. When really they felt bad because they weren't doing anything. So then they jumped sides of the fence when we said we left. So now they're able to play this side of the fence and say, well, see, we were smarter than that. We knew something was wrong. And that is not how they used to feel at all.
Yep. It's just also, the sweetest words that are so sweet in our mouths and yet so sour in everyone else's ears are,
yes.
I told you so.
Yes.
So sweet in our mouths. So you got to write that one down.
And they were the ones, hey, look, Spike, and they were the ones that was trying to get him to study with their spouses. And then all of a sudden we left, and I was like, see, we didn't do that. But it's like, okay, now, you can't have it both ways.
I told you so. Yes, I know. But the blessing of what you need, getting back to the list, is the ones who actually do get it. The ones who have been there, the ones who say, yeah, you know what? I bet anybody could get in, and I understand, and, help and reach out. I have a very dear friend that I sometimes know I can't go, oh, I'm so upset, because she's still kind of in the woo-woo mind of thought. So she's going to tell me that it's because I wasn't listening to the spirits. But I know another friend that I can just go to, and she'll let me rant. And then she'll say, okay, are you done? And I'll go, yeah. And she'll go, you're still lovable. Yeah, thank you. And we go on. So it's good to have somebody who actually knows, who actually understands where you're coming from.
Absolutely, because those are the people that have educated themselves, and they understand, and they've probably helped other people, and they can spot what you've been through a mile. But, that's why it's very important that you don't associate with people to the degree of them, like cutting you down and making you feel bad, that kind of stuff. And when I'm talking about my experience, that just happened when we were home visiting one time, because we steer away from those type of people. But sometimes people, they don't have anybody else to talk to. So I'll be one of the first people to tell you that stay away from those negative people, because they don't mean you any good.
Yeah, so you just always find somebody who does understand, and that's the good thing is now that you're out, you can choose your friends. You don't have to rely on choosing your group. No, right. But then the next one is hobbies, projects, and goals. That's the 8th thing you need to recover. Hobbies, projects, and goals. Get out there, do something. I took up doodling on a pad with colored pencils for the longest time, even color by number, I swear. Just something to get your creative juices going, take walks in the woods, collect something. Seriously, just find something that has nothing to do with recovery, nothing to do with your group, nothing to do with anything else but enjoying yourself.
You know how you can really start to find things to do and hobbies is to check with your local community colleges.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. There's
Yes.
a lot of stuff that you can do there. And those activities that I'm talking about has nothing to do with a college credit. These are just vocational things.
Excellent. This gets into number 9, continuing education. Now, some of these vocational things, that's a great way to get a job. Do you know what need we have right now for nurses, for paraeducators, for welders, for all sorts of hands-on things? You go to your local state job center, or even your, like you said, your local community college, you'll find a lot of courses that can lead to good, solid careers. I mean, do you know what your average plumber makes? And they're very, you get a good, it's good, honest work. But also, you want to get continuing education on high pressure groups, how they work, what was actually done to you. It's actually now been found that those who get out of a high pressure group or a relationship and figure out what was done to them, that is actually study coercive control and undue influence and what's going on as far as what happened to them, they're the ones that survive the best.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Who aren't going to get back into yet another abusive relationship. They're the ones who are going to not only survive, but thrive. But also on that continuing education list, not only things to do with your hands and things to do to make money, but also your arts, your poetry. Take a course that feeds your soul. Take a course that feeds your need for art or poetry or theater or music.
Mm-hmm.
All of this wonderful stuff that we've created as human beings is just an inspiration. And the more you can expose yourself to it, the better you just feel about the entire human race.
True. I would just recommend just Googling your community college and then going to that link that says like continuing education courses and just scroll down that list just to see what they're offering, to see what you can do, because a lot of people don't even know that they even offer these kind of classes.
And a lot of them are very, very affordable. And also check out your extension service. If you are in a rural area, it's going to be your extension service that's going to be your community college. That's going to be the one that gives you the courses on not only jam making and lawn maintenance, but a lot more.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I've been telling a lot of people to do, because one of the things I did when I left my cult, I joined Toastmasters International.
Very good group.
Mm-hmm.
Tori Magoo Christman, who is available at Tori Magoo 44. She's an ex-Scientologist who runs a wonderful YouTube channel. She joined Toastmasters after leaving.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great group.
They are. And I'm going to tell you, I met some very nice people there.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to network, and I had given a speech about genealogy, and one of my fellow Toastmasters invited me to give a paid speech at her organization, and I got paid $400 for giving a speech on genealogy.
Nice.
So, I mean, I thought that was an excellent opportunity.
Yeah.
To the point where I was so excited. I got a color copy of the check and I framed it.
Oh, hey, every restaurant you go into has their first 5 are framed. You know it.
Yes.
And that is number 10. That is an excellent link to number 10. And that is self-love and self-forgiveness. Now, I'm not talking, yeah, I'm great. Yeah, I'm good. I'm the best you ever was. No. I'm talking simple understanding that you are a good person. Like behind me asleep now, and they haven't been interrupting our talk, are my 2 budgies, who every morning I say, you're such good boys. I love you. Now, these guys are little tiny birds. What have they done to be such good boys? And yet they are good boys. They're worthy of love. So am I. I know that I'm worthy of love too. And self-forgiveness. That is, yeah, you did get suckered in, or you were even born in. But the thing is that you got out, and it's okay to forgive yourself for all the stupid things you might have done. Believe me, we've all done stupid things. But the thing is as Dr. Zimbardo actually bids us, don't take yourself too seriously. Laugh at yourself at least once a day.
That's right.
But you can also laugh lovingly. And you can also give yourself the same love that you'd give anybody. I mean, think about it. How many times do we scratch whichever little pet we have behind the ears and go, who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? If they're worthy of that love just for hanging around and eating the food that we give them, then we are really worthy of love.
And that is so true, Spike, because a lot of the people that I've talked to that have left, not just the witness organization, but even in an abusive relationship with a man and a woman, I found that they have low self-esteem because they're not told to feel good about themselves. It's wrong, So a lot of people have a hard time building that self-esteem when they leave.
Oh, yes, especially if you have been born into a culture of self-abasement. Because here's the thing, one of the things that the Watchtower is so careful about keeping the Mosaic law, the laws of Moses, and all of the Old Testament stuff. But if you ask even the most conservative of conservative rabbis, and they're the ones that really know these laws, they're the ones who study them and argue them, and so they will tell you if a rabbi was out in the desert and he was dying of starvation and the only thing to keep him alive was a ham sandwich, he'd have it with a little mustard. Because the best gift of all is the gift of life. And if you believe in a divinity, I'm kind of, as you know, when we talk privately, I'm kind of on the fence, one way or the other. Ask me a different day and I'll believe another one. But the thing is that divinity, if you believe in divinity, that divinity created us, or we are already part of divinity, children of divinity, children of the universe. What is that lovely poem? You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. Desiderata, I think it was carved in I don't know who the author is. It's widely unattributed, I believe, but it's said to have been carved in a church somewhere in old New England. Beautiful old poem. But the thing is, even if you believe in God, I don't think that God wants us to abase ourselves. The best books you can read, I think, should be on everybody's reading list. The Color Purple by Alice Walker.
Oh, the one that Oprah played in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the book is, you know what? The movie was pretty good too, but the book made me cry like a baby. Like I said, the whole idea of if you want to believe in a divinity, why must you think that that divinity hates you? That's what I can't understand about a lot of these groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses that talk about, well, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. And even the whole concept of original sin, that is, if I don't do A, B, and C, I am unacceptable to the entity that made me?
Mm-hmm. I just think they use that to coerce you into these behaviors.
Oh, it's a control thing.
Yes, it's definitely a control thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if I made a bad painting, it's on me the painting's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're saying that you're not acceptable to God, that means, well, what kind of parent would not think their child was acceptable just the way they are?
Right.
Not a very good parent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why self-forgiveness and self-love is so important.
Yep. I mean, I think that's the biggest part of healing, because you know, I've run into people that wanted to commit suicide, and because they just felt like they were just the bottom of the barrel, and that they could not live up to everything, and they just wanted to end it all because of that, you know, because they had been coerced to believe that they were the scum of the earth.
I know a woman who grew up in a home where self-abasement was the order of the day. First wanted to commit suicide at 10. This goes deep. This is very, very, very deep abuse that happens in groups where you are not good enough, and the bridge is always out of reach. Mm-hmm. And the you know, the boom is the line's always moving. Okay, you did this, but what did you do for us today?
Mm-hmm. I think that's the reason why the critical thinking is so important, because when people really examine who's saying these things to you, where did they get this from, and you begin to look at these people just for who they are, then you can really begin to heal as you begin to realize that these people are just serving you a bunch of bullcrap.
And you're just okay. As Mr. Rogers said, you're okay just the way you are, because there's no other you. You know, it sounds silly to quote Mr. Rogers, but I think it's some of the wisest words that were ever said anywhere.
Yeah. Because you got to go to bed. Because you know why, Spike?
Why?
You really got to get back to basics to help people to get their minds right, so they can see that there's not, like you said, there's nothing wrong with you. You know?
Yep, exactly. And that's probably one of the best lessons we can take away. Nothing wrong with you. You're okay.
Mm-hmm. And I personally feel like when I left my organization, I personally felt like I'm not going to do any reading and studying of any spiritual aspect, because I needed to just get my mind free to get back down to normal. You know, just bring all this down. Let's just find out who I am so I can then rebuild myself. Because to go from one spiritual area to another one, to me, wasn't really helping me to find out what I was even in. You know, what kind of a religion was this? You know, so let's just put all this stuff on the back burner, and then let's just find out what I was in and just try to figure out where I've been. Because if you don't know where you've been, you're not going to know where you're going.
Exactly. It's like not dating during dating right after a bad breakup.
Oh yeah, JT said that before. He said now listen to this. He said, how would you feel if you had a friend that was undergoing mental or physical abuse from their spouse, and then all of a sudden they leave, and you say, well, you know what? I think you would like to go to Match.com or eHarmony.com, and you can find somebody else. So he's like, so why would you introduce someone to another relationship after they just got out of a bad one?
Yeah, the human brain needs time to process.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, who's to say that you're not going to, while you're taking time away from anybody else's idea of what spirituality is, sometimes you're going to just, once you're quiet within yourself, you might find exactly what you needed all along, right inside yourself,
mm-hmm.
without anybody else's language on it, without anybody else's interpretation on it, without anybody else's spin on it, just the Tao of you.
Mm-hmm.
If I can use that phrase.
And you know something else? Don't feel bad about what you've chosen to do.
Exactly.
Because I feel like people look too much for other people's approval.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that because I'm not getting with your program that I'm wrong and I'm bad and all this. It's just that that's not what I choose to do.
Oh God, yes. You know, the thing is that I've actually, I wanted to ask your opinion on this, was that I was hearing that it's actually easier when one spouse leaves the Jehovah's Witnesses, that it's much easier when it's the husband who doesn't believe first, because he actually has the authority within the church to run the Bible study, and he can kind of veer the questions to the right questions if he wants. And I've heard more than one man say that he did that to wake his wife up, whereas I have not heard of any women using their position as a woman to convince their husband to do jack, coming out of any group that
well, that's not our experience. We've talked about 10 men in the last year, and most of their wives, they've either left or threatening.
Oh.
And the reason why is that they're using spiritual endangerment.
Oh my goodness. So they're choosing to stay in.
Oh my God, I cannot believe the number of women that just will not listen to their husbands.
Well, of course, or the oh my goodness, but that is just, yeah, because the indoctrination is probably so strong. But I have heard a couple of men say that they were able to, introduce the right discussions, but still it's got to be a very hard thing, really, honestly, to think of, oh my,
I personally feel the reason why they may be having problems is because of the way they may be approaching it.
It could be, or it could also just be the individual dynamics between them, or even the marriage itself. There's so many variables.
It is. One of the issues was, I think 2 of the guys were in disfellowship states.
Oh, you see, the guys that I've heard from, they were very, very, very carefully fading elders.
Okay.
Very carefully fading elders. In fact, one of them was one of the gentlemen who does JW podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how he very, very carefully managed the family Bible study every, Friday night was it? To ask just the right questions and go, now, what do you think they say that?
We know a family like that. That's how he got his family out.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a Bible study in reverse.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the best ways, actually, is not to say they're wrong because, but instead go, what do they mean by this? Mm-hmm. Just keep on asking. Because there's the thing, is cognitive dissonance. No matter how many facts you put forward, they're just going to be batted aside. What you need to do is reach the emotions.
Yes. I think when you help them to do critical thinking, that's when it works. But the moment that your spouse finds out that you have a beef or an issue with the organization, they immediately will turn a deaf ear to anything you say that happens to be negative. So it's very important that you, if you want to help your mate, it's not a guarantee.
No, it isn't.
They cannot know that you feel indifferent towards the organization. Because they're just going to shut down.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing, is that one very wise thing that I heard from a guy who had not one but two marriages wrecked by Scientology was that in a high control group, there are three in the marriage bed: the husband, the wife, and the cult. And so
that's true.
Yeah, you got to account for that in all of it. If you, especially like I know one lady who, she and her husband got out together, but once they were out, they realized that they really weren't meant for each other because theirs was an arranged marriage within their group. And that wasn't even a religious group. That was a laborers union that turned cultic, called the O, I believe it was. And that's an interesting story in itself, yes.
A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, when they wake up and find out that this is not the truth, they're not compatible.
Oh yeah, because I listened to one of your really great podcasts with some lady, and you compared looking for a husband to shopping for a loaf of bread just before a hurricane. And there were loaves left on the shelf, and I thought,
yes, absolutely. And this happens to women anyway, because there's a lot more women to men. So when you start talking about a person that belongs to a high control group, and then all of a sudden, there's not that many people in that group, first of all, there's not a lot of men to begin with in your society. And then you belong to this group, and men are not known to be very religious anyway. So now you don't really have much going for you to find a man, because they're not there at the Kingdom Hall. They're not there at these other churches. Go to any church on Sunday, and you're going to find a whole lot more women than men. One of the things that I liked what you said when you and I talked about a month ago, and I said, I have a friend, and she made a good point, and she said that God may say, hey, look, people, I've made this earth here for you. I've given you free will. Why do you keep bugging me every day? Why do you keep praying to me every day? Well, why don't you just go on out here and enjoy life? And it really sparked a nerve with me, because I think about what you say all the time. I say to myself, we have such a capacity as humans, and we're not even touching the tip of the iceberg of what we could be doing.
It's a beautiful, beautiful world, and to kind of say that it would anger some divinity who created not only just this planet, but billions and billions of stars and potential worlds out there that we don't even know about. I mean, our astronomers are just barely discovering that there are planets out there that are capable of supporting life like us, and we're just a baby species looking out through bits of glass. Think of it, a divinity that created this entire broad, infinite universe. Why the heck would he not want us to have bacon? That's like party and standing in front of the bean dip and telling everybody, don't touch it. The host made it, but you cannot touch it.
I personally think that now that I'm no longer my head in the sand and just walking around a block telling people to read this watchtower, I just feel like there's a whole lot more that we can do as humans besides, try to look at a hole in the ground and say, check this out. There's a lot more going on out here.
Yeah, try the bean dip. It's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And the bacon.
I'm telling you, I think for our listening audience, I think people should begin to explore their lives and join in with the rest of the people that are creating and enjoying life. There's a lot of things that you can be doing in this world besides keeping your mind tied to a tree. That's what it's like. It's like tying your mind to a tree and the rope is short and you can only venture out so far.
Exactly. And I'd like to quote one more. That's the best movie in the world, Harold and Maude. And there's one wonderful line. It's about an octogenarian, that is an 80-year-old lady, who befriends a 19-year-old man and teaches him how to live. And she says, "Give me an L, give me an I, give me a V, give me an E, L-I-V-E, live. Otherwise, you've got nothing to talk about in the locker room."
These are the things that we're doing. We're helping people to see there's a lot of things out here in this world that we can be doing besides tying our minds to a tree. And I think that the Creator, if you believe in a Creator, which I do, and I think that He would be very happy to see that all the things He's created that we can take advantage of with our minds, He would be very happy to see us utilizing that. That's the way I feel.
And here's a little revolutionary thought, is that a creator did not create religion. We created religion to deal with our Creator. Our Creator created us. We created religion. If you believe it, like I said, I'm kind of on the fence and think that it's such a big, huge thing that it could not even be comprehended as an entity. But that's just how I believe tonight. I actually do try not to believe any one set thing about the divinity, because I believe that as soon as I start defining it, I take away from it. We've really gone far afield and deep into philosophy tonight, haven't we?
Yes, we have. I mean, I just think sometimes, when you have a conversation and you could talk about what you feel, it makes me feel good about myself to be able to have a mind that can go there. Besides, having a mind that can only stop at this particular point in the road. But I can think what I want to think. I can feel what I want to feel. I can feel good about myself because I got the capacity to do that. Or I have the capacity to do that. You're created with the capacity to have so much and think and feel and do and explore, but yet because of these belief systems, we're very limited in what we can really think about.
We are walking miracles. We are walking miracles, and that is a fact. Whether or not you believe in divinity and however you want to put it, we are amazing creatures, and even just the gift of life, or as Alice Walker put it, the color purple in a field.
I think we all have a unique gift, and when we continue as humans to compare ourselves to each other and to look at ourselves and say, I'm not good enough because that person over there has something that I don't have, you're not supposed to have what that person has because you're different people.
We're all piece of the jigsaw puzzle. We'll all are unique. Right. That's like one part of the jigsaw puzzle saying, oh, I don't have as many nubs as that fellow. Yeah, but you're the little blue bit of the sky that goes right by the sailboat. So, you're important too.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that people should just be themselves, get out here, find out that there is a life after being in a high control group. I think it's great to go back and if you've listened to this video once, this podcast, that you re-examine the 10 things that you need to recover from a coercive group or relationship, and think about what we've discussed here.
Exactly, and remember, while there's life, there's hope.
Exactly. And I want to thank you so much, Spike, for being on The Critical Thought and coming on and sharing your information.
Well, thank you, Lady C. It is always wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.